Hello, my internet friends. Welcome to Walking and Talking, the show where I walk and talk. Here we are on the noisy road, but I promise you we'll be away from the noise soon enough. I feel grateful to have you here with me, and we will, explore the mystery of what the hell are we doing here? I'm not really sure what the hell I'm doing here, walking and talking like this, but if past experience serves me correctly, a day never feels wasted if I've walked and talked for 4 hours. It seems to be getting towards the core of what it presently means for me to be alive right now. That is, doing this process in which I feel like I'm just kind of delving into meaninglessness. I seem to come out the other end feeling some sense of meaning. Whereas there are some days when I let a more conventional logic sort of dictate my actions. As in, maybe I might spend a day or part of a day worrying about my future, or kind of plotting and planning how I might get ahead in the world, how I might increase my income and status. And I generally find that kind of thinking doesn't get me anywhere except a pit of misery and confusion. It's as if that kind of thinking for me is like grasping towards surface, superficial level attainments. It means giving, at least for me, it feels like it's giving too much weight to things that I know really are abstractions, such nebulous things as status and income. Now, I know that money you know, it is kind of a collective abstraction. You know, it's as valuable as we all agree to believe that it's valuable, which is a pretty significant amount of value in this society. And so that's pretty real. It has a pretty real bearing on one's well-being. But, and you know, I'm in a position where I've never really been in dire straits financially. I don't make a lot of money, but I don't spend a lot of money. And so I have enough to get by and still be able to do stuff like this. But frequently, you know, it may enter my mind that, gosh, making more money would really open up some possibilities or something. And it's true in one sense. And then there's this other sense where if I really start to think about what exactly more money would afford me, it generally equates to a freedom to be able to do what I want to do. And when I follow that line of thought fully, I'll often come to a certain conclusion that I can actually right now already do what I want to do. If I let go of the hold that this thinking of money, this wanting of money has in my mind, and I can just, like, you know, right now go out and walk and talk, or go sit and smile, and it's always worked out. I mean, not everybody's situation is the same, of course. And, you know, the practical circumstances surrounding all that, of course, have a bearing. But I think this can be applied in a lot of situations where if you know, if you think about why it is that you want money, or that you want more money than you have, is it certain, like, you know, what are you going to spend that money on? Is it going to be certain objects, or housing, or services, or what, or other people, or what? And then realize that what all those commodities are certain embodied forms for some other deeper need. Like it's maybe there's our physical biological needs, of course, and then above that, like emotional needs. And needs like peace of mind. And it's true that I think it's true that it is very possible for exchange, for monetary exchange, to facilitate meeting these needs, and it does in many cases. But there also seem to be many cases where meeting your needs can get convoluted. Maybe. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. It could be the case sometimes that for me, like, I'm overthinking how to meet some need of mine, or I'm perceiving a need that's not really there, and then maybe in the process I'm neglecting a need in the present. That is, for example, what if I wake up one morning and I start to worry about my financial future, my stability for the future, and start to have a fear that in the future I'll be poor and I won't be able to find a decent job, and then I'll, because of that, I'll live in squalor and have no family or friends or community, and be miserable. And so maybe that fear might lead me to start thinking about how can I adjust what I'm doing to prevent that from happening. But all the while, this line of thinking has me feeling really tense and agitated. I'll be all tense in my body and just worrying about the future. And so whatever, who knows what sort of rabbit holes of thought this might take me down. Maybe it's got me searching the internet for job postings, but then I'm I'm not qualified for these jobs. Maybe I should go back to college and get a whole new 4-year degree, and so I can actually get a good job, and then then I'll have this stability. And then if I keep following that train of thought, it eventually, it's almost always if I actually weigh out the pros and the cons of this imagined alternate future versus continuing to live more or less the way that I live now, it's like it usually either ends up evening out, being about even, or trying to change things drastically would be worse, because it wouldn't be worth all the sacrifices that I would have to make and all the new stresses that would enter my life and the kind of whole new sort of paradigm and set of values that I would have to adopt. It would, you know, I'd become a slightly different person. And so that usually doesn't get very far. And then all the while, all that time and energy that I'm putting into imagining all these separate futures and strategizing and thinking, if I could do this and then I'd have to do that and whatnot. And then, you know, and then I'm not like, it's time spent unhappy. It's time spent, I don't know. There is another way of interpreting this, but it's time when I could be walking and talking, basically. And when I do things like this, when I make a 4-hour YouTube video, at least for the present time, all those worries vanish. I mean, at least temporarily, they're not here. I'm just doing this. I'm just walking and talking and making this however mediated connection with you, and creating this vast archive. Who knows how long it'll stay around, of my particular mind at work. And it does actually feel like there's some work being accomplished when I do this. There's a certain spilling out of ideas, articulation of ideas. There's things like working through existential crises, and most of the time I come out of doing one of these with a much clearer mind and feeling a lot more peaceful. And some of these worries about the future, then they're kind of gone. I mean, they seem to always like come back. But they don't really manifest, you know? It's like the worries, it's like they can become self-fulfilling prophecies, or it's like this abstraction actually of living in poverty and squalor for me. It can become a reality for me mentally if I allow myself to worry about it. That is, if I allow that way of thinking to take up too much real estate in my mind, then it can affect my perception of my life, and I'll perceive my situation as being, not good enough. When, like, the truth is, it's like, any of those categories of, like, being poor, being well off, or being middle class or something, like, at least in my mind, from my perspective, when I feel like I'm seeing from a clear awareness, those are really, like, illusory and have no substance. It's like how would I define poverty? Is, like, in my case, like, is it my, if we went off of income amount solely, then we could say that I'm poor. But if we went off like actual, like, access to like enriching, ways of living, and access to community and education and learning and just, self-enrichment, then it's like I feel like as rich as I could be. Like, I have all this freedom to do the things that feel the most enriching to me, and that's a real luxury. And I don't want to, I don't want to make other people feel bad or something, or feel envious of that situation. But I do want to emphasize that your perception of your life situation may be way more malleable than you ever thought. The perception of what you might have the freedom to do in your life may be more malleable than you thought. You may be more free than you think. Now, of course, like, I should acknowledge that poverty has more to do with there's a lot more factors involved in this abstraction of poverty than income alone, and there's so much to do with one's socioeconomic background and all the factors of how you were brought up, in what environment, around what sort of people and family, and so on and so forth. And in that sense, I can't complain about anything, about, you know, the situation that I was born into is middle class. And beyond that, it was particularly intellectually and culturally rich, my upbringing. Like, my parents both, you know, like really avid readers and music listeners and artists, and so like I had a
Oops. Let's go. No.
I had an upbringing that was, you know, really rich in these like man, I was afraid I'm never gonna get away from that dog, as charming as it is. And so I feel like that kind of that form of wealth is easy for me to continue. And you know, now it's this internet age where just like so much stuff is available for free if you have internet access. It's not like I need a lot of money to have access to interesting things to read or view or, you know, see. But still even I don't think of intellect per se as any ultimate value either. Like, being smart is a good thing, but up to a certain point, it's like you're like, well, what is all this smartness gonna doing for me, you know? It seems to me that like smartness is generally like specialized, or it's applied. It's like smartness is applied in life. But then there's wisdom, and that's like something more generalized. And you could say it's applied also, but perhaps in less concrete and identifiable ways. But wisdom is something that it seems to me is less dependent on life circumstances. I don't know, I could be wrong. I mean, maybe you have to, but like, where does wisdom come from? Is it always, do you always get it from encounters with other wisdom coming from other people? It kind of seems like you can just get it just from living. In any situation. I don't know, I could be wrong. Maybe if you're, caught in a struggle for survival, and or you are maybe surrounded by really unwise people and have a barrage of crap coming into your consciousness all the time, maybe it doesn't leave space to develop wisdom. But it seems like, for the most part, if you live long enough, you're gonna get wise. Seems like I can see some amount of wisdom in anybody that's, lived a long time, and some people that haven't lived that long. I wouldn't like to come across as an apologist for inequality, because I do think wealth inequality, wealth disparity is a bad thing, especially when it gets extreme. But on the same token, it's like, with the right kind of wisdom, you can see through the surface of those of these like notions, of wealth. And it could totally be the case that maybe that's just really easy for me to say, because my life is fairly easy in terms of the material side of things. Because I do look around and see a lot of people that seem much more focused on the material, on gaining the material. And sometimes it does kind of make sense if I look at their situation. But then other times it's like if I really connect the dots and put individual wealth in the context of a society, then it seems like one individual's gaining doesn't really matter. Maybe for me, there is a more libidinal side of me that's wants to just be greedy and personally gain sometimes, or just a way of thinking where I'm like I was saying earlier, start to worry more about myself, my own personal gain. But then, pretty inevitably, when I start to, connect the dots of how, and maybe I'll start to hatch a scheme of how I'm going to make money, and then I'll start to connect the dots and think about what sort of cause and effect relationships those actions would have with the rest of the world. And in terms of the whole world, it's maybe there's not a gain there. Maybe it just evens out. Am I going to be gaining on the backs of others? And if so, what's the point? Or even if and then kind of in the other direction sometimes, maybe I'm feeling this opposite urge of man, maybe I should actually just be a lot more generous to others. And then, I could, have even less material. I could take even less from the world. But then I'm but then maybe I'm okay, but then let's say I'm giving more material. Let's say I'm donating a bunch of money to charity. Then I kind of would need to make more money, so I'd have to take more money from somewhere. And then if I think about the additional financial pressure that I would be under, then I see the detriment of that to my ability to do things like, for example, make these YouTube videos, or sit and smile, etc. Or I don't know, any of the other kind of things that I do that don't really make a lot of money. And then I'd be well, then those things would suffer perhaps a loss of quality or a loss of integrity. And so it's not worth it. And so it's just I consider all these different forms of where energy can be moving through me, given the give and take between myself and the world. And so often they seem so equivalent. That is, that many of these choices that I would consider seem like the net effect of how much actual good there is in the world is like zero, or like there's no net change in that. And so it's like I might as well keep doing what I'm doing, because it, you know, what I am doing like seems to be a solution that works pretty well for now, that feels to me like there's some kind of positive exchange happening between myself and the world. It doesn't require too much from anyone, and it makes something available to a lot of people. And of course, this isn't to say that every choice that I could possibly make is an equivalent amount of good, because there are plenty of bad choices that I could make that would be harmful in general. So it's like the hard questions, the ones that really occupy my mind about decisions about what to do, are the ones that are hard because they're pretty close to equivalent and net value. For the world, I mean. So I guess one thing, if anything, that I might be able to contribute via walking and talking would be maybe a kind of nudge for people towards thinking along the terms of broader scale thinking and higher values. Away from the sort of like seeing, away from seeing things like your own status, your own identity as such solid truisms, and to be able to see them more as like sort of like a web of concepts, of mental representations. And in that, like when I see things more that way, it's like it becomes it just feels more true. And I can't really permanently go back to thinking, you know, of myself in such concrete terms. And even thinking about just money in itself, like for me, the more I understand about the economy, the clearer it becomes to me that the value of money is this very like nebulous thing. Like we know that the value of any particular currency fluctuates, and in some countries it fluctuates wildly, to where if you had, you know, thousands of dollars or euros or I can't remember the names of some of the other currencies that have fluctuated so wildly, unfortunately, but you know, what you have in your bank account or wallet or whatever, like from one day to the next could actually lose most or all of its value. It's possible. And it happens, you know, some major disruption happens, and then your money can't buy what it used to. And so you can move your money around into all these different investments or consumables or depreciables, to try to maximize its value to you. In the present and in the future. And so like when I think thoroughly about like what to do with money, sometimes it's like so much is so unknown that it becomes almost arbitrary. Almost. I mean, there's many cases where it's just like much more obvious, like if I'll maybe buy some food or pay the electric bill or something. But in a certain sense, like even those things can come into question for me. It's like, huh, I've lived like totally off the grid before. I could just do that and like not even have any money and meet my needs that way. And it's like the stability of the value of almost anything seems to be is interlinked with like politics and things going on in the world. And if, you know, my country's political situation seems unstable, and, you know, which it does to you know, like some crazy disruption could very well happen in the near future. And what the things that have a collective value now might lose their value, and you know, you'd have a totally different situation where money might not mean anything, or it might mean less, or who knows. Or certain things that you invest in, you don't know. You know, they have a certain amount of risk involved in them. Some have more risk than others. And, you know, like by investment, I mean in the broad sense, like it could be an investment in education, or like some kind of cultural enrichment, or in your health, or, you know, not just things like stocks and bonds and real estate. And sometimes, if even those things like seem like they're in the future, and it's unknown what kind of value they're going to have in the future, like sometimes that makes things in the present much more valuable. So for instance, like maybe I just want to invest in time. So, for example, like getting a taxi instead of the bus to save time, or buying a prepared meal, or eating at a restaurant instead of cooking to save time. Because then at least you know that you have that time to do something that's valuable to you in the present. But, you know, what is that thing that's valuable in the present, and can that in itself be an investment in the future? Like, if I take these 4 hours to walk and talk, I feel engaged in the world in the present. I feel alive, and I feel like my authentic self, to whatever extent that's even possible. I feel like I'm making a certain kind of connection with people and communicating something that feels, you know, like very meaningful. I mean, also meaningless, but like meaningless in a meaningful way, or like as meaningful as things get for me, anyways. But then at the same time, as I mentioned earlier about like I experience a increased peace of mind after I do something like this. It's like if that's contributing to my psychological well-being, like that's very valuable for the present and for the future. Because if I'm in a clear state of mind, then I'll be prone to making better decisions in general. And I'll, be hopefully more apt to maintain healthy habits. And another thing is that this is time that I spend not consuming. Sometimes it's kind of hard to not be consuming. Like if I sit at home without having a structure or a clear plan, like I'm quite apt to, get bored, and then to the existential void starts to creep in, and I'll look for all sorts of ways to flee that void, like snacking. So I'll be, eating when I'm not actually like physically hungry, or I'm just like surfing the internet or something. And when you do that, when you surf the internet like kind of aimlessly, it for me it really contributes to sort of general dissatisfaction, dukkha. Like even if I'm not like, starting to convince myself that I need to buy something off Amazon, I'm just like getting this input of information that is like always referring to something other, always referring to some alternate possibility that could be mine. A form of materialism, like even it might be a materialism of like needing to have things, or it might be another kind of material of like needing to know things, needing to know everything on Wikipedia, needing to like spiritual materialism, like starting to think about how I need to become more enlightened, or think about how I need to like do some kind of meditation retreat, think about how I need to like start learning yoga or karate or Brazilian jiu-jitsu or whatever, or thinking that I need to like oh, maybe I should like go back to school and get an economics degree or something, or like anything. And it just like that actually creates a kind of scarcity that you experience as real, even though it's just like a fog of thoughts that has accumulated in your mind. But if and then like through that fog of thought, like if I let that fog of thought accumulate in my mind, And from that perspective, doing something like walking and talking, like, will start to seem like a bad idea, because it's like, well, what's that gonna gain for me? But you know, if I can, you know, either pierce through that fog of thoughts temporarily, or not let it accumulate in the first place, and just go out and walk and talk, this is like a place where I don't have this constant influx of information and like a constant flow of life options proceeding before me, constantly thinking about how my life could be better and different, and everything else that I could have that I don't. And you know, just like having a completely unstructured time where I'm where I can react impulsively to every uncomfortable feeling that I might have, then it's like a kind of entropy taking place in my life, and I'm in a sense like destroying value. Just if I think about, like, if I spent a day snacking compulsively, then I've consumed more resources in the world than were necessary, and B, probably feel physically and emotionally like crap, and C, would probably have a slightly negative effect on my long-term health. But here in this structure, none of that happens, and at the same time, I'm participating in a mental process that actually feels productive in the broad sense of the term. I mean, productive also in the sense that we pierce through this idea of productivity itself. And with the regularity, it gets stronger. It seems like the positive attributes of these practices increase with regularity. And even in the financial sense, like I have somewhat of an inkling that to a certain point, the amount of revenue that I might get from YouTube and Patreon would tend to increase with my regularity of making these videos. And I don't mean to put that in a cynical perspective of that I should just do this regularly to make money. That's not, you know, that's only a small aspect of it that is like, you know, I think interconnected with like a greater benefit of it. As in, like, for example, like if there's more patrons subscribed on my Patreon site, then I suppose that is sort of one form of evidence that there are more people connecting to this communication. Like, here I am sort of to some extent deconstructing money, but at the same time, like, ooh, look at these. Damn, those are beautiful. I'm not sure what kind of mushroom that is, but it looks really familiar. I used to be a lot more up on my mushroom identification, but it's gotten a little bit rusty. I'm gonna have to look that one up. Or if any of you happen to be good with mushroom ID, leave a comment. So yeah, like, to some extent deconstructing like the concrete value of money, but then at the same time still acknowledging the relative value of money and how in a certain sense it is very real in our world. Like, we make it real as a society. And I feel at the core of me a very strong sense of autonomy from society that for me has been grown from certain life experiences, including living off grid and having a certain confidence that participation in the money economy is not the only way to live a good life and a rewarding life and a beautiful life. but also that it is possible to participate in that economy in a beneficial and fun and beautiful way. And so it feels to me, to be, to the extent that I'm participating in the money economy, does feel like a choice, like an option. That I like want to do for the benefits for myself and for others. But it's like which means that I appreciate very many aspects of modernity and appreciate many of the things that are really our sophisticated economy can allow for, that wouldn't be possible in a less sophisticated economy, that is one with less specialization and and trade going on. And even this means of communication with you is one of those things that's made possible by that. We have YouTube where, remarkably, it's possible to upload hundreds of 4-hour-long videos for free, for just, you know, the cost of my electricity and internet bills. And I can choose to run advertisements on them or not. But you know that the organization is supported by ad revenue primarily, and if you know me at all, then you know that I'm not really a fan of the psychological effects of modern advertising. Because they quite often use pretty insidious and divisive psychological and emotional tactics in advertising. That's just the name of the game nowadays. But then, you know, it's amazing that we have something like Patreon, and like I might have my criticisms of, I might have some criticisms of Patreon and its owners, but overall I'm very thankful that it exists, and this opportunity to set up like this donation-based thing, where instead of exposing thousands of people to these YouTube ads, like a relatively few people can donate, and I just feel like the volition there is so much more positive overall. And now it's not that I've spent this whole hour and 13 minutes leading up to like a donation pitch, but like with the people that do donate and like the communications I've had with them, I find it generally to be the case that we share a certain common understanding of how money works in this society, and that they're seeing the financial support of this YouTube channel to be a net benefit in the world. I mean, I'm still talking on a certain level of relativity, of course, because if I say something like a net benefit from the world, that seems to, require some qualification on what exactly a benefit is, and I could go down that rabbit hole forever as well, and deconstruct that forever. And until we get to a place where there is no such thing as a benefit, no good or bad. And there's something real about that, but there's also something real about benefit. Like, there's a certain amount of good necessary on the level of understanding. I mean, just like the level of reality, even where there is a good and bad, in order to support an awareness of the ultimate non-duality of good and bad. So I guess if I might be so bold and so arrogant as to say so, then I would say that I would think of walking and talking and sitting and smiling as forms of media that tend to raise awareness, tend to raise the level of awareness, or at least point to it. I think in the last episode I was talking about how I was talking about, the ultimate unimportance of watching Walking and Talking, telling you that, I would be happy for it to cause you to stop watching. But now I'm talking about the relative importance of it. Because I don't really know of anything exactly like this in the world. I mean, there are books, and there are a lot of really wise people that write books with well formed out and edited thoughts. And it's great. But now there's also Walking and Talking, where I don't form my thoughts in advance. I don't go back and edit, but I'm continuously revising as I'm going along. Like revising, I guess just revising my own perspective or something. A form of language that I hope in some way enacts or in the way that it is enacted expresses all of the levels of relative truths of what I'm saying, as well as an ultimate sort of transience of those truths. We just keep moving along. And the things that I said in the past had a level of truth when I was saying them. And the thing that I'm saying now has a certain level of truth as I'm saying it. But as we move forward, things that I say now don't exactly negate what I've said before, but they do keep presenting alternate angles on the truth. That seem to show the relativity of anything that I say. And we can move up and down in the depth of our truths. You know? Like down meaning more like more relative and more specific. As in like a truth that's like maybe very concretely true, but only in a very specific context. And then upward meaning broader truths and approaching something ultimate, an ultimate truth. But when you get to the ultimate, it's like the as you approach the ultimate, you shed off any solid truth. You shed off any kind of solidified, concretized notions of truth. And you never actually arrive at a you know, a stopping point, but you enter a sort of stream of constant, perpetual change. Although the change is so perpetual and constant that it's not exactly change anymore. As in, for there even to exist something that we could call change, then it would have to be in reference to something that we could call solid. There had to exist something solid in order for it to change. But as we approach some kind of ultimate form of truth, it's like truth isn't even such a good word for it anymore, because it's like truth and mystery become one and the same. Knowing and unknowing become the same. There's no solid ground, but at the same time there is. Like right now, this feeling I have is like simultaneously being on the rock solid ground floor of reality where I couldn't fall any further, but simultaneously feeling like a total groundlessness. I don't know how to describe it exactly. Like on the ground in the sense that I feel a certain stability that seems to come from not having any illusions propping me up. Not holding on to any solid notions of identity. So like I feel solid in that way, or I feel, excuse me, I feel I feel this a very deep absence of fear, absence of anxiety. And a certain confidence that I can handle whatever experience comes my way. But it also, but it's because it feels like almost like transcendent of experience. Like I don't really care about experiences. groundless in the relative sense, as in not standing on any previously perceived ground of identity concepts, although, you know, who knows what who knows what I'm not really conscious of. Who knows what structures of identity might be still at play in my mind that I'm not fully aware of right now. Who knows? But, you know, relative to a mode of awareness where I'm, you know, really, where I'm concerned about myself and my future and all that, I feel exhilaratingly groundless. I don't know if, not exactly exhilarating, but like groundless in a good way. But then it's almost like this other, to the extent that I feel that I am on the ground, it feels really solid and affirmative. Like it feels like a really solid ground. And that just feels like a ground of now, of existing right now. But I'm also totally aware that all this other stuff will probably come back. Concern about the self, you know. I'll get physically tired, I'll get hungry. And then, you know, as those sorts of things increase, then one feels, you know, increasingly bound by the body needs. And, you know, it's like all these basic, like, biological and emotional, you know, mental needs provide the foundation for, you know, these feelings that I'm experiencing. You know, so like the basic material stuff is just, you can't really escape it, can you? Or it's like, maybe it's like you're standing on it in order to have a certain perception where you can see through it. Does that make sense? I don't know. But like, like, I mean, like I was saying, I feel like I could lose everything that I have and be fine. I mean, all the material that I have, because it's like, I also can't. I would be lying right now if I said that my material possessions felt real to me. Like, we discussed like sort of the relativity of money and how the number in my bank account is an abstraction with a fluctuating value that's based upon concepts of value held by society at large. And it also, like, the value of it also fluctuates wildly depending on just my own perceptions. My own conceptions of like what amount of money constitutes comfortable living. And that is something that certainly fluctuates in my mind. But then, like, other things like my house, like, my ownership of a house is an abstraction as well, that society is currently upholding. Like, everybody is agreeing essentially that I am allowed to live in this house. But even the house itself, it's not a solid thing. It's like, if I don't fix the roof, it's not going to be a house forever. If I don't maintain the foundation, it's not going to be a house much longer. Now, I know there's this very legitimate other proposition of, like, well, easy for you to say. You're in this easy position. And I won't argue with you on that, but I will maintain that it feels more true to me that all of these would-be solid ideas about who I am and what I have are actually just like actively maintained or actively changing, actively fluctuating web of concepts. Not just my own concepts, but like in a network of concepts of other individuals and as a society at large. And that I would extend that assertion or that way of seeing things to your life as well. That the would-be solid circumstances and characteristics of your situation that seem to have a bearing on your level of satisfaction or dissatisfaction are in fact, a quite permeable web of percepts and concepts that can be penetrated. And when you penetrate them, there's a wider field of freedom. If you'll excuse me, I gotta take a whiz. Let me set you up somewhere with a nice view. Not of me whizzing, but of some Bob Ross worthy landscape. I'll be right back. hell of nice up here, isn't it? These things smell really good. I feel slightly physically tired, but in not a negative way, but in a way where I did a lot of exercise yesterday and this morning, and so my body feels a little tired from that, but my mind feels, but I feel alert generally. And clear, I guess I would say. But, you know, one could always get clearer. The air feels crisp, and this mist that's falling down feels super refreshing and enlivening to my senses. In a certain way that I'm not sure that art could do for me. Art can do other things for me. But it can't really mist on me outside an environment like this. Unless it's, you know, a massively elaborate contrivance of an experience that would be spoiled by my knowledge of the money spent to produce it. And by my knowledge of the general relationship of a person to that sort of contrived experience as being one of consumption, That is the thinking that one has gained something from this from an experience, and that thinking being heavily influenced by sort of implicit understanding of the valuable resources consumed to produce that experience for you. But when I have this kind of experience, I don't feel as if I'm taking from anyone. Other than the small amount of resources, involved in the battery life of the camera. The electricity used by the camera, which is not very much, and which is also being somewhat replenished, slowly replenished by the solar panel that's on the battery charger right now, the battery pack, I should say. And the value invested in the camera itself being amortized over the camera's useful life to us. But that's it. That's not very much, I could say the calories that my body is expending that will need to be replenished with food, but that would be the case either way, whether I was making this video or not. The mist falling on my skin Nobody had to do that for me. It doesn't cost anybody anything. No time. Granted that my appreciation of the mist falling on my skin is probably created by the context of me living inside a house much of the time. And my pretty much knowing that I can return to that house and be warm and dry, which does maybe consume a little bit more if I'm heating the house, and like the resources involved in maintaining the house. But this is the sort of like equations that I could just do forever, and eventually I just kind of realized that it's kind of meaningless. I mean, you do it to the extent that you realize it could go on forever. And that all you're really doing is kind of fragmenting reality into a certain conceptual model, and then shifting the pieces around like a Rubik's Cube, or like one of those little tile puzzles where you slide the squares around and try to get it in the right order. Like here I'm just standing and leaving some long gaps of silence, and something about these silences feels fine to me, as if they're a natural outgrowth of the trajectory of my talking. Sitting on a rock and not talking. Sitting and squinting. Chin stroking and joking. Joking and stroking. Yeah, you kids can have fun with that one. Chin stroking, I say. I just feel happy sitting here, even if I'm like furrowing my brow a little bit and talking in a mildly brusque tone. This is fun. I'm having fun. I think this is funny. Look at me. I'm like, I'm a figure in a landscape. It's a painting. This is my contribution to contemporary painting. It's a moving, talking painting. Stretching and kvetching. What is kvetching? I don't even know. Is that even a word? If it is a word, is it a verb? A gerund? Is it a legitimate gerund? I'm stretching. Welcome to Walking and Talking, the show where I walk and talk. Are you having fun yet? You're watching me stretch. Thanks. I mean it. I must be watched in order to feel any meaning in my existence. My quasi-internet fame is all I have. See how charming I am? See how charming and funny I am? Operating on multiple levels of ambiguous irony. Am I being for real or am I joking? Let me explain everything to you. Boy, this feels good. just sitting on a rock in the mist, stretching. Let me be your life coach. Here, what you need to do is go outside and find a big rock when it's misting, you know, raining a gentle mist, and stretch. That's exactly what you got to do. I'm not ready to put that shoe on yet. And then do this one. Do this stretch this way, like that, like so. Yeah, feel the burn. And then hunch your shoulders forward and feel the stretch in your shoulder blades. Yeah, that's the ticket. Welcome to Stretching with Ben. Do that one. Feel the burn. I can't really touch my toes without bending my knees. That's my flexibility weak point. What's your flexibility weak point? And then pound those hamstrings. Is this your hamstring? I don't know. I think. Work those quads. Punch your kneecaps. Just kidding. Who's my audience? Who's my audience? What demographic should I gear my language to? How sophisticated should I present myself as? My audience is diverse. Like you, and then the next person watching is a lot different from you. But you understand English. Well enough to understand that anyways. We're just stretching, and we'll start walking back soon. I'll keep talking. It'll be great. It is great. It's already great. Think about how much insight we've gained already. I taught you how relative and illusory the value of money is, and how donating money to me on Patreon will be an expression of your highest values. Your highest level of consciousness wants to donate money to me on Patreon. I'm half serious. It's called rocking something. When you put a foot up on something like that. I'm rocking this rock. Maybe we'll shift back into a reverent tone. A serious tone. And enough of this enough of this. What is this? This flippant. But we're like lucidly flippant. And that's the only flippant to be in my estimation. Trudge through the valley of existential muck, and then you'll get into the open field of lucid flippancy, of flippant lucidity. But maybe we should tame it down a little bit and not indulge in such fun, not make light of things. The world's a serious place. There's serious shit happening. People are suffering. What are you doing to help? If you're not part of the solution, how serious am I? What is seriousness? What is seriousness? Okay, let's keep walking. Well, let's have another look at these mushrooms. Some kind of Copernicus, I'm guessing. Don't take any of my mushroom identifications as definitive. The pawpaw leaves are beautifully mottled. Mottled, not modeled. Am I hyperactive or am I super calm? You don't know. Am I serious and focused? Or am I scattered and willy-nilly? What's the difference? The silences, are they pregnant? Are you waiting for the next thing that I'm gonna say? Or in the silences, are we just on the ground? Way over on that hillside making a tree move because it's eating the tree. Oh, you know what? Let me restart the video so that in case there's a glitch, we don't lose all this precious material, pure gold. And we're back. See, what if I get too flippant and then I just get stupid in a non-lucid way? It would suck if I got non-lucidly flippant. Like lazily flippant, or unself-consciously flippant. Chip. And I feel like this could be over. I feel like it's already been a good episode. But, you know, that's not what we do here. We don't just end the episode whenever we darn feel like it. We stick to the program. 4 hours. This is where I introduce my musical guest. Or this is where I interview a celebrity. I mean another celebrity aside from myself, of course. Yeah, like part of me wants to calm down and resume a continuous, sincere flow of speech. But then this other part of me is like, what is seriousness? What could you possibly be serious about? Ugh. But then another part of me is like, things are serious. Look at these crazy looking trees with the vines going up, the poison ivy vines going up. They have these bulges in the trunks. These trunks are bulging. They look like they're bursting at the seams, and then they got these kind of wicked looking hairy vines stuck to him like a long ass centipede. It wigs me out. I don't envy those trees. What the hell? Oh shit. Look at these spotted lanternflies just attacking this tree. It looks like they're like poking holes in this thing and like this tree sap is leaking out. This is horrifying. They're killing this tree. What the fuck? This one is like squirting shit out of its body. This is horrifying. These bugs are fucking sinister and creepy looking, and they kill trees. Ah! Oh! Ah! 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 Ew! Ew! Ah! Whoa! And they jump like grasshoppers. Ah! It's pooping. It's like squirting stuff out of his ass. Ew! Oh, yeah. Oh my God, they're all over that tree. I took a bike ride the other day on this trail, and I'd regularly see those things walking on the trail, and I know that you're supposed to kill them if you see them. Like there's like hundreds on that tree. Like, do I want to just like squish a bunch of giant bugs right now? I wouldn't even be able to reach most of them. It feels futile to try and save that tree. But I was biking, you know, I'm like, I know you're supposed to kill these flies, these spotted lantern flies. But then at the same time, I'm like, killing one of them feels like a drop in the ocean. So I just made a game of trying to run over them with my bike. So if I hit them, they'd die, and if I missed them, they'd live. I was playing games with the life and death of another creature. What do you think about that? They kill trees. But, you know, they're animals. Trees are plants. Animals occupy a higher slot on our hierarchy of consciousness. But they're smaller than a tree. And they're more sinister looking than a tree because they have red eyes. What if they were really cute? Like then, how would our relationship be to them? Like what if they were furry, or like, well, I don't know if any insect is honestly cute enough that we wouldn't want to kill it if it were blighting trees. Like ladybugs, yeah, we'd still kill ladybugs if they were blighting trees. It's probably the cutest bug. But what if they were mammals? Then you have a harder time killing a mammal. But mammals are harder to kill anyways. Like that chipmunk. I couldn't catch that thing. Or those squirrels. Can't just walk up to them and step on them. You gotta be divisive and crafty if you want to kill one of those things. Or use technology. I don't know, some people kill mammals that are pests. We catch mice and kill them. And some people don't. Some people catch them in live traps and then release them. But I don't know of anybody who like catches roaches in a live trap and then releases them. Like, what do you do if you're ideologically vegan and you have a roach infestation? Strange topics that we've veered off onto all of a sudden. Huh. But now I know how these spotted lanternflies operate. And it's kind of terrifying. What's to be done? So I don't know if I would say I'm not sure if I feel the same groundlessness I was talking about earlier. But I feel light, of course, as is probably apparent. I feel lighthearted. And then just now, I'm like, why Why am I just walking here and talking about how I feel? Like, just all of a sudden again, like, this whole situation of what I'm doing appeared afresh to me, anew to me. What? Afresh, anew? Are those words? As if I just now, like, realized the ridiculousness of what I'm doing anew. Or as if I just noticed what I was doing. As if I didn't realize that I was walking, talking, and I was like, whoa. You mean I'm walking and just talking to a camera and, like, just saying what my experience is? Weird. But I feel confident that today won't feel like a wasted day. I think that I feel happy about some of the stuff that I said, especially in the early part of the video. It seemed coherent. It seemed to have a good degree of continuity. It seemed, my memory of it seems like it was clear thinking with some explanatory power. And then there was this middle part. Chipmunk. Where do you go? Under there? That just transferred from that serious and authentic tone to one that was, like, very funny to me on multiple levels. Because I felt like my own seriousness became ungrounded, or like had the rug pulled out from its feet, and then I was adrift in a sea of hilarity. And what's going on now, I'm not at the perspective where I can ascribe a general tone or characteristic to the way that I'm speaking now, or the way I'm relating to you and to reality. Ooh. I think these are honey mushrooms. Are they? They're big. kind of big for honey mushroom. They might be though. I think that's my guess anyways. Yeah, that's my guess. There's a bunch of them. Like now it seems I'm responding more to my external environment. But also the thing is, before what I was talking about was seemed like, well, it was self-reflexive in a sense, but in a kind of broader sense, where I was talking in more general terms about things like money and value, and just reflecting that a little bit on my own relationship to the economy and this YouTube channel's relationship to the economy. And now it wasn't so much like reflecting on the act of talking itself. It wasn't doing this thing that I do so often of reflecting on the thing that I just said, or some aspect of the thing that I just said, like reflecting on the way that I said it, or I don't know. Look, there's a little perfectly made house in there. I could be your house. That's like the living room. There's the bedroom. Like before, it seemed to have a certain kind of content that is like relatable or relevant to you. And now I find myself just talking so much about this episode of Walking and Talking that I'm like even kind of wanting to get out of that a little bit, but even as I continue, like the things that I say are just like continuously like reflecting on the last thing that I said, and it doesn't escape this. It's not escaping this cycle, this self-referential cycle. And I wonder if it might start to feel like claustrophobic in a certain sense, or cut off or something, or stuck in a certain way, but it's still moving. we're still moving along. We're just like what we're talking about now, though, is like is much more devoid of actual content. And we just gotta be we gotta be okay with that. I think it'll make sense in the end. You gotta be brave and not try to run away in times in your life when meaning collapses. But just, stay strong and don't be afraid to look into that void of meaning. To like realize, there's times when things were really meaningful and they seemed solid and like that you could hold on to, and then sometimes they disappear, they go away, or they reveal themselves to be not dependable or not reliable or not actually meaningful or real or true. And so you just gotta be strong enough and like keep looking at the truth. And know that those things were never really solid in the first place. But that's okay. And even parts of yourself that you thought were solid and real and true might turn out not to be. And that's totally fine. And you can let go of those things. Because like what is real about you can't be hurt by anything. What is really, what is fundamental about you, no person or event or anything can take it away. And I'll venture to say not even death. But that's like a really hard one, because when you ask yourself what persists after I die, what is here now that persists after I die? That's not something that's easy to say with words. We still have a lot of time left. I'm like, geographically, I'm towards a sort of returning point where I'm often walking back this way and it's like almost the end. But at this time, somehow I've ended up here a little bit earlier in the video. So can just take my time. This video is like reverse of the norm because, in some respect, because now I'm like feel less of a flow of talking, I guess, and feel more of a noticing myself thinking and without speaking those thoughts, and more of like auditioning those thoughts for speech. Whereas usually I start out that way and then get freer and clearer. But this one I was like really like clear thinking towards the beginning, and then got into like this very whimsical and flippant and funny tone, and now I'm like more distracted, I think. Yeah. Or something. Or maybe, you know, maybe it's because I'm comparing my current state of mind to my memory of the preceding ones. Maybe I'm clinging on. Spotted lanternfly! Die! It's over there. I'm not gonna kill it. Maybe I'm clinging on to some sort of persona, to some sort of way of presenting this episode, to a way of talking. Boy, those flies. Is it just my knowledge about that the flies kill trees that is coloring the way that I see them as looking sinister? If I knew that they were actually beneficial, would it influence me to see them as more beautiful? I mean, they are red and gray and have spots. I don't know if you can see that one, but it's like crawling up this poor sycamore tree. Are you gonna attack this tree? That's the only one I see on there. And that they're like invasive, you know, like I've only seen them this year. This is the first year I've seen them here. And I see a ton of them now. All of a sudden. Like they're foreign intruders here to kill our trees. My thoughts are jumping from here to there with rapidity, and I'm not sure whether to just indulge that and let that go and state my rapidly shifting thoughts, or if I need to make an effort to maintain some more continuity. I think it's fun to rapidly shift thoughts sometimes, you know? It can be fun to just like say something that's totally non sequitur just because it's what's in your mind. Like who's my audience? Who should I gear my vocabulary towards? 9-year-olds? 20-something art students? Champagne liberals? Champagne socialists? Gamers? Buddhists? Philosophers? Rappers? AIs 100 years from now? A distant future unified consciousness that can read and instantly comprehend all of the internet, whose consciousness is one with the internet. some hyper intelligent future being or 12-year-olds. Hyper intelligent future 12-year-olds. Who have like who have hyper sophisticated dick jokes. I'll just gear my vocabulary towards you. How about that? To you specifically. You are who I'm talking to. And you understand me perfectly clearly. You know what's going on here. There's one little turtle on that log. Huh. Oh, there's a few more. I guess, are they starting to go into hibernation now? What do you identify as? What makes your identity? What would you say if I asked you what you do? So what do you do exactly? How are you contributing to the world? I wonder if you can eat spotted lanternflies. If you could like fry them up. Or grind them into a paste. A dip. I hear they like sweet tree sap. Do you think they're sweet to eat? Probably not. But what if you could like just toast up a whole frying pan full? It probably tastes not dissimilar to crickets or grasshoppers. Who knows? They look kind of weird though, you know? They got those bright red eyes. Does anything eat them? Who knows? Maybe this is material that's not suited for walking and talking. I'm sure all this information exists elsewhere on the internet. Feels pretty quiet here, except there's some kind of HVAC faint roar, and then some pouring water over there, and a sparrow, and a cyclist. What's the point of me telling you this? I just spent a little too much time around academic music types who seem to think it's a revelation to listen to an air conditioner. Or it's a revolution to like listen to the sounds in your environment and appreciate them. It's like, no shit. But that's only if you're, that's only if you have the luxury of not being surrounded by harsh sonic environment all day. Like my friend said, if you're like working construction or something, you're hearing harsh noise all fucking day, and then you don't need some fucking music academic to like show you the virtue of listening to dissonant, harsh, abrasive noise. How it's like gonna open up your world. You don't need somebody to tell you that like listening to pleasurable music is bad for you. I don't know, maybe it is depending on your situation. What's with this episode, huh? Why has the content and the tone of my talking become so inconsequential? I'm just like passively griping about stuff that doesn't matter whatsoever. Snap out of it. We're only talking about ultra heady, profound topics. And we're talking about them in an ultra heady and profound way. No griping. No esoteric baloney. Purely universal truths. Universal and exotic truths that are praying mantis. Sup, dog? Ah, yeah. Praying mantises with the, we have some kind of like association with praying mantises. I feel like as if they remind us of the meditative repose, or like martial arts, like as if, I don't know, maybe that's just this like cultural association that I have. That a praying mantis is supposed to be a martial arts master that we can learn from. Therefore, for us, effectively, a symbol of a noble and pious and, Eastern flavored orientation towards life. I almost feel bad for enjoying this so much. Could you be enjoying this as much as I am? Ooh, acorns falling. I am going to rest under some sort of assumption that this is at least contributing to some positive feelings in you, that you feel better at the moment than you would if you weren't watching Walking and Talking. I mean, that's a strange proposition, right? Because, like, if you weren't watching Walking and Talking, then we're positing an alternate universe in which you're doing something else or you're watching something else, and there's infinite possibilities in that realm. And so it's like, you know, who knows what, who knows who you could be. Who knows if the sum total happiness in the universe can be increased or decreased? Who knows? Will there be some consciousness in the future that understands this and can be like, yep, we can increase the total happiness and decrease the total suffering? Some pretty fowlers. But yeah, it's like, I guess I feel distracted in that, like, in these gaps now, when I go to start talking, I'm like, what was I talking about? Like, what would be the thing to say that provides the right balance of between continuity and development? All right, let's make some more of these. I live a weird life. Ooh. These look to me like one of the edible viburnums. Confident enough to give it a try. That's alright. It might get sweeter later. Listen to the sounds of the city. Isn't it mind expanding? Let me just contrive a way that I can take credit as a composer to present you the freaking sounds that you would already hear anyways. So you can refer to me as some kind of genius composer. Avant-garde. Paradigm shifting. I don't know what that guy was saying, but it sounded like he was speaking in Swedish or something. Seriously, like the lilt of what they're saying sounds Scandinavian to me, but I'm probably, they don't look Scandinavian. Snap out of it. Focus. Focus on the profound. Welcome to walking. I'm so dumb. I'm so falsely modest and performatively self-deprecating. Ew! I've lost my gravitas and I can't find it again. Where are you, gravitas? Now I'm dizzy. Whoa. Ooh. I like this image. Sometimes buffed graffiti can look really nice. Yeah, I could stare at this for a long time. You wanna? You and me? We'll just look at this little composition for a while. Painting. It's a painting. I couldn't paint anything that good. Hell yeah. I was just excitedly looking forward to the end of this episode of Walking and Talking. I was excitedly preparing what I'm gonna say at the end before I turn the camera off, even though we still have like 23 minutes or so. I can't wait. It's that time of day. It's like people getting off of work time of day, which makes me feel excited to get off of work. One of those days where you start to get a little giddy at the end of your shift. Alright. IRL people look normal. Some art. That's on purpose art. That's on purpose art. That's not on purpose art. You be the judge. More IRL people. Okay, look normal. Look normal. Just blend in. We're normal citizens. We're totally fit into society. I accept the same value systems as everybody else. I hold as real the things that you hold as real. I respect the culture. I respect the traditions, the ways of creating meaning. We're totally normal here. You and me, we're totally normal. I'm a YouTube creator. This is a verified profession. I'm a professional. And you are watching YouTube. You are recreating. You're recreating. This is recreation. Entertainment. Entertainment. Philosophy. Spirituality. This is a nice one too. Yeah. Let's, oh yeah. This is really nice. And with the air conditioner blowing, I could not make something better myself. And look at this one. Beautiful. Brilliant. Brilliant. Okay, and now here we got the on purpose art. That's the on purpose art. Once again, you are the art critic. Bam. How about the aisle? Welcome home. Welcome home. This could be your home. Welcome home. So homey. Look at those people. They live there. See? They're just on the patio. With the patio with the foliage behind it, wherever that is, and they're obviously friends. They're obviously a racially diverse group of friends, just enjoying conviviality. That's what the aisle is all about. It's not just a metal box, gray metal box that you pay a fuck ton of money to. It's the literal embodiment of conviviality and diversity. All that is good in life. Welcome home. I'm so happy I could explode! Just walk normal. Walk normal. Just look normal at your computer. Oh, watching the screen, just watch normal. Just like you're normally normally watching a video on your computer, your phone, or whatever. And I'll walk normally, and I'll just be like a normal person making a YouTube video. Okay. Okay. Normal. Welcome to 13 minutes left. We'll end on a positive tone. You can do it. You have the strength within you. Practice self-compassion, forgiveness. You're your own best friend. Be your own therapist. Go out there and make it happen. Go for your dreams. Be the change you Whoa, look at where we are. Where is this place? Whoa. Whoa. What is this wonderland of modernity? Wow. There are sensual experiences to interact with my notions of identity every which way I look. I could go to Kraft. I could have some bites and brews. I could go to Salon L and do whatever they do there. Roast coffee. I could have some roasted coffee. Furniture. Huh. I could curate my domestic situation to suit my tastes and express my identity. Or I could just, say fuck it and just get a slice of pizza and accentuate my identification with the more humble classes of people who eat pizza. Just regular old pizza. Hey, give me a slice of pizza. I'm just like a normal guy. I have an affinity with the working class. And then I could go to dwelling home and I could uncover my distinct sense of style. Ooh, like that. That's kind of my style, to be honest. That is kind of my style. Thanks, dwelling. Or look, not too normal, not totally normal, but like with a little bit of alt in you. If you look too normal, then you're like, psh, you're not. Just have a little bit of alternative expression in your appearance. That's a nice whip. I like where this episode has gone. We've come a long way since the beginning of this episode. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. All I can do is like I'm just trying to push, squeeze some words out. Walking and talking. Squeeze out the spontaneity, profundity. But always stay vigilant against dumbness. You gotta keep it fresh. You gotta really bring it. If you're gonna occupy people's time, if people are gonna give you their attention, you gotta bring it. Bring the top-notch content. Woo. What's gonna happen to me? We're almost done. We're almost done. Aren't you excited? I am. It's almost quitting time. Hot damn. Oh, we're not clock watchers. We're committed to the task at hand. Always. The job doesn't end after the clock strikes 5. Your job never doesn't end after you're off the clock. You must always be embodying your brand. You must live your brand. It's not just a YouTube channel, it's a lifestyle. I'm not just a YouTube personality. I'm a consumable identity. You could look at all you get from this video. You can be incorporating all of my mannerisms and my characteristics and my worldviews into your own identity. You already are. And this is an identity that is robust, up to date, and immune, totally immune to the hazards of this modern world. Nobody can bring me down. You could be like me and be impervious to criticism while still being vulnerable and emotionally available and open to change constantly and constantly growing. A modern spiritual person that's still in touch with the libidinal and has accepted the libidinal, the appetites, and lives in a harmonious balance between the pious and the profane. It's like you're rock solid, but permeable at the same time. Serious, genuine, authentic, and self-deprecating and ironic. See what you get from walking and talking? How could anything be more valuable? If you appreciate all you get from walking and talking, show your support today by pledging on Patreon. Even just a few bucks a month. The price of, I don't know. For less than the price of a fidget spinner a month, you could be supporting walking and talking and become part of the community. And you'll be expanding your consciousness at the same time. And you'll be adopting personality traits that are effective in this modern world. What a deal! What a deal! I'm just overwhelmed with joy at the prospect. And even though I know you're just heartbroken to hear it, this is the end of this episode of Walking and Talking. Join us at some other time in the future for another episode. Like and subscribe, I guess.
Every time you shoot it, it won't like.
All right, let's end this mug. Bye.